I want to do it because it's fun. It's fun to do bad things.
So did you know that you could perhaps kill somebody?
It's the craziest podcast in the world.
Yes, but I want to do horror stuff with my friends.
You don't think you should be punished for all of this?
Just a little bit no video games for a whole weekend. I took my drummer cup because I got mad at my mom, and then I saw her having a free cup, and I yanked the thing.
Can't do it. Can't motherfucking do it.
Paid for the whole song, gonna get the whole song. Oh, what's up, everybody? This is Say I Won't Podcast, episode 13. No, 12.
12.
Episode 12, season 3. Yes.
Sazon 3.
Welcome to the party.
Party.
So I almost said Edgar. I'm
Nice.
Isaac Chase.
Y mi nombre es Edgar Antillón.
When I introduce myself in my classes, I always say I'm Isaac Chase. I'm one half of Guns for Everyone. Guns for Everyone started with me and my partner in 2010, and then I always have to feel like I need to clarify what I mean by partner. And I have, in the years I've been doing this, I've never figured out a way around that. I just always say that, and I hate it. What do you say? Or you probably don't even include me. You're like, I also team up with this dude I found on Craigslist.
Craigslist. No, I say Guns for Everyone. Start by myself. My name is Edgar. The other gentleman involved with Guns for Everyone. His name is Isaac.
Other gentlemen involved. I like that.
Yeah.
Because you can use that in all kinds of circumstances.
Correct.
Say, it wasn't gay. It was just another gentleman was involved.
there was no giving or receiving.
I got married and there was another gentleman involved.
I tolerated him.
Tad says, Isaac, the film was on Prime, not Netflix. Are you talking about Edgar's movie Rhetoric, the documentary?
Prime.
Or were we talking about something else? I don't think I recommended any other movies on Prime that are on Prime.
Yeah.
So,
hey,
yes.
Brooke, how's it going? Hey, Lori, how's it going? It was a watermelon popsicle. That's what my snack was.
Popsicles don't fill me up, dude.
They don't fill you up.
That's not a snack.
Not a knack.
Yeah, a snack has got to be at least a half a pound of beef involved. So, yeah. So Tad's talking about Edgar's documentary, Rhetoric, all talk, no action. I believe I put that in last week's show notes.
Probably.
I think. If not that one, then the one before. So let me check. Maybe I said Netflix,
Check it.
but I definitely put the right link in the show notes.
Netflix
So speaking of documentaries,
documentaries.
what's the current status of your documentary?
The new one, I know I'm a year behind at this point. Yeah. It should have been in the process of being finalized early 2021, but with the vid going on, yeah, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, it's a mess, you know, and I think on topic, you know, people are losing their minds.
Their
think
fucking
people-
minds.
I'm seeing videos all over the place of people completely losing their cool.
Their shit.
because they were asked to wear a mask, and like not like, well, fine, I'm not shopping here, and then storming out, like breaking stuff, assaulting people, you know. And
Losing their shit.
I feel like we didn't see this kind of behavior before, when it was just, you know, sir, can you please put pants on, you know. So
Is my schlong bothering you? Is it in your way?
do you want me to show you my penis? So it just feels like people are losing it, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how much this whole COVID thing is playing into it, but I feel pretty worn out by all this.
And I think that's why everybody's there, because everybody's just worn down. Everybody's just fed up with it one way or another. Some people think we should wear them. Some people think we shouldn't. Some people say stay in, stay out, and everybody's just like, fucking leave me alone already. Like,
yeah, people want to be left alone, except that they want to get themselves into other people's business.
yes.
And insert themselves into situations that they don't have any business doing that.
And the funny thing with the yellers now, I'm with the no maskers, because I'm all about the no masking. I like to play unsafe. I like to go into stores raw, give it to a bareback, if you will.
If you will.
But there's some people who are just like, it's a free country. Like, well, that's a private business.
Yeah, people think that they have the law on their side, and they think that they have HIPAA on their side, and I mean, it's really strange. Richard said Governor Polis extended the mask order under the excuse that he's not getting much pushback. I'm sure he's not. A lot of people have taken this cause up as like, this is. I think
a lot of virtual signaling with this this cause.
A lot of virtue signaling, and the media has done a really good job of framing the conversation around, well, we can't get back to normal until everybody wears a mask.
Everybody.
And that's not that's not back to normal. Wearing a mask for a haircut is not back to normal.
Whatever you say, boomer. Okay, boomer. Damn.
You're just doing that to infuriate me. You know, the song itself doesn't bother me. It's a TikTok's video. That's what bothers me.
It is now an Instagram reel. It is no longer TikTok.
Yeah.
We have bootlegged TikTok.
Bootleg, and I never thought about that. Cross-platform videos are bootlegs. I like that. I've been wearing my mask pretty much everywhere. I stopped caring about using it as an opportunity to show my my independent free thinking. I just I don't care enough. So I walked into a convenience store the other day and forgot my mask in the car, and I was like, forget it. If she tells me to wear it, I'll go back and get it, but I'm not going to wear it. And I felt so self-conscious in the store. I felt like everybody was looking at me.
Yeah.
And even when I went up to pay for it, I'm like standing back, you know, I'm leaning my head back away from the shield. That's
I'm
between
sorry.
the two of
I'm
us.
sorry.
This brainwashing goes deep, man.
It does.
Yeah.
So it hasn't happened to me, but apparently my wife likes to get in fights, so she's part of the fighting crew.
Okay.
She gets yelled at all the time, and the kids get yelled at all the time for not wearing their mask.
What kind of places are they going to that?
Just King Supers
Uh,
and stores and shit like that. So I think the kids got called mask deflectors or some shit like that. And the funny thing is that these are people who are afraid of the Ron, but yet getting close to people to yell at them is just like, get the fuck back then.
and they're afraid of the Rona, and that gives them license to yell at kids who, I mean, yeah, you want to yell at the parents, but why are you talking to these kids?
Yeah.
So I saw a video of a protest happening at some guy's house in Minnesota. And these protesters were in the neighborhood, in the street, in front of the guy's house, yelling at him. But they were yelling at his kids. And I'm like, man, that's messed up.
Correct.
And the guy probably deserved to have some people yell at him. He gave out his address on Twitter and told the protesters to come to his house. But still, like, the kids don't deserve that.
Correct.
As a protester, your job is not to be like, all right, it's on, and start screaming at some guy's kids.
No, I think this time around, nobody just nobody cares. Everybody's just
the rules are out the window.
Out the motherfucking window.
So Richard says, if you don't wear a mask, people will get much closer to you. It is true. People want to get in your face to yell at you if you're not wearing a mask. And that's a weird concept. Like, if you're that afraid, shouldn't you just be on the other side of the street yelling at them? Did you see this video of this?
Or novel concept, mind your own fucking business.
Yeah.
That's a weird
Well,
concept.
people feel like they have license to do this because you're making COVID worse, and your not wearing a mask will eventually kill my grandma.
Eventually.
So
even though I'm the one that made the choice to go see my grandma.
Yeah.
After being out in public places.
Yeah. Well, even just having it exist is a threat to grandma, and you're making it worse.
Worse, because you're gonna go visit my grandma.
Well, because you have it, obviously. If you're not wearing a mask, you have COVID.
Obviously.
And yeah. So your wife says, actually, I just make eye contact with people yelling at me. I haven't gotten in any fights. You just gotta have to let bro handle it.
bro.
Oh, that's interesting. The kids get told stuff when I'm not with them. Yeah. People feel licensed to do whatever they want right now in the name of
whatever they want.
Yeah. So did you see this video of this guy getting beat up in Portland?
Yeah, dude, that was fucked up.
Do you know why he got picked on in the first place?
No.
Because some trans woman was walking down the street and got into an argument with these same protesters, and they screamed at her and started touching her and hitting her and stole all of her stuff and beat her up. And he stepped in to try to get them to stop. He didn't like forcibly stop them. He just got in between them and asked them to stop. And they pretty much put him in a coma.
Yeah, he's in a coma right now.
Yeah.
That shit's crazy.
For standing up for a trans person, which is supposedly what, like, Beyond is partially.
Well, we've already talked about this a little bit, but I mean, this just shows the hypocrisy of. Let's just assume all of these people. We're going to generalize here, and I understand we're generalizing here, but these are all fucking communist. And I always hate to label one and the whole group together, but the reality is that they've all shown that, and it's always shown this hypocrisy shit that we've always known. Like, I seen fucking Mike Tyson with a Che Guevara. Every time I see a black person with Che Guevara shit on, I'm like, what the fuck? That motherfucker would have killed you.
Yeah. Although you got to cut him a break. He's been hit in the head a lot.
So it's shit like that where it's just like, well, I guess you're saying what Antifa and the communists are all about.
I'm not even sure they're like really communists. I mean, they're as communist as your typical.
Yeah.
I'm trying to I'm trying to create an analogy that works. Like, they're as communist as a typical Republican is fiscally conservative.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so they think they're communists. They'll tell you they're communists, and they'll punch you in the face if you tell them communism is bad. But are they really communists, or are they just uninformed a-holes?
Yeah. Correct.
You know, so, but they are revolutionaries. They are out there to tear down the system.
Yeah.
I don't think they really know what that means, but that's what they're there to do. And you don't tear down the system by following rules, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Motherfuckers.
I saw a video of a black woman getting stopped in traffic, and she was really calm about the whole thing. They stopped her. They were in front of her car, and she basically said, "If you don't get out of my way, I'm going to shoot you." And she didn't show a gun or anything, but they were arguing, and there was like people screaming at her, and then there was a couple of people like telling her, "Just go," you know. So of course she went, and then a bunch of people started throwing things at her car, and then two of these people got into an argument with each other. One was a white woman, one was a black woman, and the white woman was screaming at the black woman for letting the black woman go. Like, oh right, now we're getting into it, you know. Like that's
crazy.
We are really getting deep into this now. And
That is crazy.
I've seen plenty of videos of black people who are screaming and yelling at these protesters. And I don't think it's a secret that these protesters are not really acting on behalf of black people anymore.
No, I think if you go on Twitter, if you go on Instagram, I've never seen it like this before. Like during Ferguson, Trayvon Martin, like it wasn't like this, like at all. And now you see it, because before, I mean, I started working there. There's an individual. His name is Charles. Charlie, you've met Charlie, I think.
I think so.
This is the person that I started doing Black Lives Matters classes with, and this is way before Black Guns Matter existed. This is way before I knew of any major Black movement. He was already doing it here in Colorado at a local level, getting the Black community going, and it started off with Black Lives Matter. So they would call me out, and I would do classes a couple a year or so. I haven't done one this year. I think last year I did about 2 or 3 of them. Even then it was very like, yeah, this is 100% a Black movement. There were some white people here and there and stuff like that. You always have your trust fund hippies who feel guilty for centuries of shit, whatever. But like this time it is almost exclusively trust fund hippies.
Mm-hmm.
Exclusive.
Well, or maybe even just people who are unemployed, but pulling in those unemployment checks. Like I could probably afford to protest every night if I was just pulling down those unemployment checks.
Correct.
Certainly if I was single and I was doing that. I mean, that's way more money than I ever made when I was young and single. Richard said there's a Black community in Colorado. Apparently not, because when we tried to get those Black Guns Matter events together, they were not well attended.
They were not. Actually, when Charlie does these things like that, that's pretty crazy. Not all of them, but it's crazy how big that community is.
Yeah. Well, and so I think
they're just more spread out here. I think in Colorado, just a little more spread out, but definitely a lot more pale than, say, the South.
Yeah. The Black Guns Matter as an organization, I think, has always been about Marxism and trying to overthrow the system. But I think a lot of the people who committed themselves to that cause had no interest in that. Their primary interest was just protesting police brutality.
Correct.
And even systemic racism to an extent. I don't think you have to ask too many Black people what their opinion on, the quote unquote system having some element of racism to it. There's pretty obvious proof that there's been some nationwide policies that have definitely been racist that are still in effect today or started during the civil rights movement. Have you ever heard of the No Man About the House policy?
No.
So the No Man About the House policy was basically welfare reform in the 60s that said if you guys if you are getting welfare, you can't have a like a father or a male in the house. You have to be a single parent. So, and I've heard several stories over the years of people talking about how when the welfare investigators would come over, like dad would sneak out of the house,
Go hide.
go hide, or if it wasn't dad, it was just whoever was there. And like this was a policy that was in effect to some degree is still in effect. The policies that are aimed at helping the poor in a lot of cases just make it worse for them.
Yeah.
And it's done on purpose. It's not an accident. So
Yeah.
so it's you don't have to look very far to find that kind of stuff. And I think when people hear Black Lives Matter and they're like, yeah, I'm black, my life matters. I support this.
Correct.
I don't like police brutality. I know I get pulled over for being DWB.
Correct.
And so,
Well, and it puts a lot of people in this position, particularly white people who happen to believe in the cause, not the group, the cause, or the idea. It puts a lot of people in this place where it's just like, okay, I'm not for Black Lives Matter, and then that makes you look like an asshole. It's just like, no. Then because it's like it's not the organization is the one that's going to shit. It's the one that has disenfranchised the black community. It's the one that is no longer for what it's supposed to be. So we're in this position where like I'm with Charlie, I'm with Maj, I'm with Kevin Dixie, I'm with these people, but the organization itself is just not doing what it's supposed to do.
Which puts, I think, everybody at a disadvantage because it makes it really easy to finger point at people who are, oh, you don't support Black Lives Matter. Now you got to explain yourself.
Correct.
Now you got to explain, well, no,
You're on the
this is
defensive.
you're on the defensive. It takes time and effort to explain it. And a lot of people don't want to hear it. They just want to hear you say Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then you are a racist. You are open
Correct.
for business.
Correct.
And it's a terrible position to be in.
Correct.
And I don't know where this is going, but
yeah, it's going to be interesting. Next year is going to be super interesting. I'm very interested to see how once COVID goes away, which the prediction obviously is November 5th, that shit will be gone.
As long as the right person wins.
Correct.
If Trump wins, good luck, man. We're going to be dealing with COVID for 4 more years.
I don't know.
Until a mob goes and lynches the president.
Yeah. Which would be interesting.
That would be interesting. That would be interesting.
Interesting. Just for story's sake, not because I necessarily want the president to die. It's just for story's sake. That should be incredible.
Interesting is a neutral term. I find it interesting when I almost sliced off my finger with a, those little buttons that you push to get the pole to go in and out on a pop-up tent.
Yeah.
So I was using something like that was way bigger and way stronger and way more heavy duty, and it took the top of my finger off. And I thought, that's interesting. It hurts. But I never would have thought I would have lost my tip of my finger to something like that. So,
when did that happen?
Oh, this was a couple years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I get reminded every time I put a pop-up tent up, watch your fingers.
Touch that finger.
So on that note, have you heard about this plan to occupy the White House?
No.
There's a protest plan. Let me see what it's called. Got to pull up the right.
Well, you see what happened to the dude that tried that.
Yeah, he successfully interrupted a press conference with his life.
He ended up dying.
Oh, I thought he did.
Okay, I don't I didn't follow up. I didn't do the follow up. I just seen the video, and yeah,
Yeah, so it's called it's got a few names, but they're calling it the White House siege. They're calling it occupation, and they're calling it
when is it?
Shut Down DC. Starts September 17th, and the plan is to do it for exactly 50 days. So that should be fun. 50 days of riots in DC. And if you count the days, 50 days is several days after the election.
Damn.
So I don't know. I think there's a lot of possibilities for this. I think it could be a cover for an operation to actually physically try to overthrow the White House if Trump wins the election, or at least believes he didn't lose. If the election is contested in any way. And you got to understand, when I say stuff like this, I'm not saying this lightly. I'm not like just cruising Facebook looking for conspiracy theories. I don't pass around, memes that have like, I don't know, an extreme lack of evidence, or a huge amount of conjecture. But this is happening. Like, this is being promoted all over Twitter. There's several groups involved. Shutdowndc.org is, their operation is up and running. This is going to happen. And I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know what the outcome's going to be, but this is going to be intense. I'm sure of that. Because Portland's been intense, and it's on the other side of the country. It has nothing to do with DC.
Yeah.
So, and they have this is another thing I find interesting. If they decide to have a protest anywhere, especially protests that involve occupying a highway or, showing up at somebody's house, and they don't have any problem rallying up people no matter where it happens. There was a protest in Teller County at the ICE detention center in Teller County, and they had people blocking the roads up there in Teller County.
All two people that were driving through.
How do you find people to go to Teller County to protest?
Well, it is a hippie town, ain't it?
I mean, maybe. I guess Woodland Park is in Teller County.
Woodland Park, and then I know a lot of people in, what is that?
But these aren't hippies necessarily. These are people who are willing to stand in traffic, and so that protest, this happened like a month or so ago.
Yeah.
A bunch of locals showed up just to fight them. Like, it was not a counter protest. They pulled up in their truck. They got out ready to fight. They run in, they start a fight, and they immediately lose the fight because they're way outnumbered. So a bunch of rednecks are now getting beat up in the street, and it was just like, wow, this is crazy. Tad says, I see miniguns in their future. I don't think so. I name one place where law enforcement has responded with that kind of force or anything close to it. They're not doing anything. This guy who's getting protested in Minneapolis, he's the head of the police officers fraternal organization or something like that. He's a cop guy. And there were no cops there protecting his house. This is one of their own. And they're not even there protecting his house. I'm seeing fights happen between like Proud Boys and Antifa. I don't see any cops anywhere.
Yeah, dude, I've seen enough on obviously mostly in downtown areas where people are just kind of what just happened in Portland, where people are just beaten to fucking shit, man. Just, and nobody's there. Like nobody's there. It's kind of getting, I don't know. It plays to the anxiety. It plays to the definitely low level of patience, and it plays to all of that stuff. And like, for me, it's just like, well, fuck, like I don't even want to follow this shit anymore. Yeah. Like, it's important to follow to understand what the fuck's going on, but at the same time, I just want to not give a fuck. Like, I just like, oh well, that shit sucks. I hope Portland makes it, but if it doesn't, like, I don't.
I'm watching this stuff not because I care about Portland at all. I'm watching this for what the trend is. And if Portland teaches us anything, it's that, well, among other things, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, whatever organizations are pulling the strings, can organize consistent, large-scale protests for a long time. And it shows us that the police are hamstrung. Maybe they want to respond, maybe they don't. But you got to think, if you're a cop in Portland, you got to be close to just giving up.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not prosecuting people. Anybody that gets arrested is just turned loose later that night. And as a police officer, it's like, well, who are we really working for here? And I saw a video of a cop telling a protester that he's quitting, that he's done, he's out. He's not going to deal with it anymore. He's just out of total frustration. He's just telling him, I'm quitting. And he wasn't doing it to join their side. He wasn't like, yeah, you're right. Police are assholes. He was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm done.
Yeah.
And, yeah. So David asked, do you think there's a chance this will swing the pendulum of gun control the other way? I have no idea.
I don't think so. I'm already seeing Pincus, Simon Says, you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. He runs
2A is for everyone. That
2A is for everyone. Funny motherfucker. So
wait, what'd you say?
Funny motherfucker.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
I have a sticker of him here next to me of him in the bubble bath.
Yeah. Yeah, Tony Simon. He's so they all posted something about the Democrats, and it was a good point. It just a lot of Republicans are saying, "Oh, see," or let me rephrase: a lot of people that are pro-gun are asking Democrats to, yeah, bubbles, yeah,
Bubbles.
they're asking Democrats to kind of join over and shit like that, and it's just like, no, the idea is. You're trying to get the Democrats to just take that out of their platform, the anti-gun shit. But then you still have a lot of them who are like, well, I like anti-gun legislature.
Yeah, you don't think there's going to be any hypocrisy coming from these people?
Dude, we see it with the Republicans. Republicans are for anti-gun laws. Like, the Republicans love universal background checks because, oh, well, God forbid that somebody who committed a crime 20 years ago would have a gun now, or somebody who smokes the marijuanas would have a gun right now. So because of that, I don't believe it, because if the Republicans themselves, I mean, historically in modern history, Republican presidents have been more anti-gun than the Democrats. So I just don't see that switching. I hope it does. I mean, everybody hopes that that's what happens.
We're running on a lot of hope right now, and
correct.
It's not getting us anywhere.
It's never gotten us anywhere. Like it's never gotten us anywhere. Obama had a lot of hope. That's what the fuck he ran on, and he fucking kicked out more of my people than fucking Bush did.
Come on, man. It's only 2 million. Come on, man. Come on.
Yeah.
Dog face, lion, dog face, pony soldier.
So it's tough to say. I hope I'm wrong, but I just don't see it happening, because again, the Republicans themselves are 100% okay with anti-gun laws.
Yeah, and the Democrats are the revolutionaries who are buying guns to protect them. Well, it's not even just revolutionaries. It is a lot of people. There are a lot of people who have changed their minds about guns.
Yeah.
But for how long?
Correct.
Well, wait until, and I'm not hoping this will happen, but I'm sure it's going to happen at some point. And I don't know why it hasn't happened yet. This is something I keep expecting to happen. It hasn't happened yet. I can't explain it. But at some point, some true right-wing nut job is going to unleash hell on a group of these Black Lives Matter protesters. And, if this country is capable of producing school shooters, we're definitely capable of producing a fed-up, over-the-top right-wing nut job who's willing to kill a bunch of these Marxists in the name of preserving the country. And I don't know why it hasn't happened yet. If you'd have told me if you'd have told me 6 months ago we're going to be where we are now, I would have expected something like that to happen at least once already.
Yeah.
And oh yeah, David says, I have close left-leaning friends who always were against having guns, who decided just to get one, quote, just in case. that's not necessarily a convert. That kind of
Correct.
person is not necessarily going to be all pro 2A now. They're the same type of people, like just like a Republican who will buy a gun because they feel like they need it, and then when they don't feel like they need it anymore, it's no longer important to them. So
Yeah, it's a kid with a new toy, man. It shit's amazing right now, and then give it a few months, and that fucking thing will be on a box collecting dust.
Dave's right. It is an opportunity.
Correct.
And there, you know, it's just like any kind of marketing. You don't catch everybody. You know, just because you have their attention doesn't mean you got them on board. But you
But
can't get 'em
if
if you don't have an opening.
But if we go in the whole switching thing, is like we're not switching them. As a gun person, I just don't want them to be anti-gun. So I think a lot of conservatives and Republicans, to Simon's point, to Bubbles' point, it's like you want them to give away their abortion, you want them to give away their religious beliefs, their views on the economics, and their views on all that stuff. Like, well, no, they bought a gun not because of their economic point of view. They bought a gun for self-preservation.
Yeah.
So it's.
I will say that, like, the best way to convert somebody from non-gun loving to gun loving is just take them out shooting. And so, you know, maybe some of these people who buy guns would take them out and shoot them and get, you know, at least one gun safety class or a training class under their belt, and then decide, holy crap, I really do like doing this. This is awesome.
Whatever you say, Boomer. Okay, Boomer. Yeah.
Man, that whole boomer thing irritates me so much because it's true, man. I can't argue with it.
I'm gonna switch gears a little bit.
Go for it
before I forget. So I've been bitching and moaning for years about how Mexicans don't get enough representation. When I say Mexicans, I am cynically saying everybody who speaks Spanish, regardless of what country. I
love Mexican people.
Regardless of which Mexican country you're from, whether it be Venezuela, El Salvador, Guatemala, Colombia, all those Mexicans, we just don't have the representation. One of the things that I found to be true, and I'm testing it out right now. Some of you guys are saying it, and I have no fucking issues admitting it, even if it reaches the grand scale that I want it to. I've always been an individual who's here, participates, who just happens to be Mexican.
Mm-hmm.
So I've never been out loud Mexican. So if you look at all of the individuals who've been successful in playing that racial thing or the identity politics, they've always been that first, and then so it's like, oh, this is a black person who happens to own guns. And I think white people.
I'm a black queer community organizer.
Correct. I'm not a community organizer who happens to be a gay black dude.
Right.
Yeah. And then president, if that's where you're going at. If that's where you're going with that.
Yeah.
I caught your bullshit. Got it. So, and so I'm testing that shit out right now. I don't know if you've seen the last few posts where it's just like strongly fucking Mexican. And I've had less resistance this way than I have in the past.
Yeah, what's up with that? You finally get a response out of people. So I went on Reddit to look at the Guns for Everyone mega thread, and somebody posted the news story that that was written about the situation going on with Larimer County. And the first comment was, "Why did he have to go and play the race card? That's pretty low." I'm like, well, finally somebody is like, finally we can talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, like that's what it took to get you to,
correct,
you know, pay attention to this.
Correct.
You know, like if you hadn't have said that, probably nobody would even have like commented anything.
And that's just the thing that I'm testing out, is like I have to be outrageously Mexican who just happens to own guns in order for people to be like, oh, hey, there's Mexicans that own guns as well.
And I know it's an experiment, because I know from what I know about you, you'll get tired of playing that role
Probably
pretty quickly.
it depends on how successful it is. If it's successful, fuck it, I'll just sell myself because that's not who I am. Like the whole race thing. I like we have a text. Like I text you like, dude, like I want to mention this, and you know why I wanted to mention it.
Mhm.
It's like, but I feel dirty saying anything about my race.
Mhm.
Like I don't want to be that person. Like I've never, excuse me, I've never been that individual who's just like. I'm proud of who I am. I speak Spanish and I love the language and I love my culture. But I've never been one of these people overall who believes in just like slapping fucking my dick all over the place. So like, look at this, it's Mexican and I have to put a sock over it. And
What was that dude's name?
I don't know. I'll
You don't
look
know
it
his
up.
name?
No.
I'm not looking it up. You can look it up.
I'm gonna look it up so people can look it up.
Well, while you're looking it up, I wanted to make a comment on Latina Locked and Loaded said, I definitely got told to go back to Mexico plenty while growing up. I guess that counts. There are legit racists out there who want you gone for sure. But there's a lot of times where people are angry with you for whatever reason, and they will find whatever they can to yell at you to make you feel small. And it's horrible, but I've experienced plenty of people who are angry with me and they say some terrible things, and I'm like, they don't even know what they're talking about, you know? And it's a difficult situation because you don't really know who you're dealing with. It could be like legit racist people, but a lot of times people are just trying to be the worst version of themselves to win an argument, to win whatever points, to make you feel small so they can feel big about themselves. And so when I hear stuff like that, it's like, it's terrible, it sucks, and I feel bad that people have to go through that, but I don't know what it actually means. Oh man, there it is, Roberto Esquivel Cabrera. Google that at your own risk.
At your own risk.
Yeah. So if you were back in the hood back in the day,
yeah,
and you know, I presume that your neighborhood was mostly Latino.
Yeah, all Mexican.
Right.
Like Mexican. I like this time I'm not even like fucking it was Mexican.
Like little Tijuana or
Juarez. It was really more Chihuahua than anywhere else.
Little Chihuahua.
Yeah.
If some white dude came rolling through the hood and he was intentionally being provocative or acting like a moron,
we'd have fucked him up.
Yeah. And you would have said some terrible things about white people while you were doing it.
Well, the thing is that we don't have to say that because it doesn't hurt white people. Like I've always been of the mind where like if I call you a honky, like it doesn't hurt white people because white people have never been slaves. Like they've never been persecuted, oppressed.
White people in this country have never been slaves.
Well, yeah, I mean we there's levels. The Irish people have never been slaves for 400 years and then have a system of oppression and continued systemic oppression and shit like that. So
well, they have, but it's like you start to get into the oppression Olympics, you know, because the Irish were brutalized by the English and the Danes.
So that was white on one crime. That doesn't work.
Right.
That doesn't count. White on white crime.
But to them, they're not. It's not white on white. It's Irish versus English.
Correct. It's country on country.
Yeah. So, and you know, if you're in those areas, like you can tell an Englishman when you see him, or you can tell a Dane when you see him, but it was also a lot longer ago. I mean, there's no living memory of that. There's no legal memory of that.
Correct.
They're not still dealing with like Jim Crow laws in Ireland.
So if we want to go with the micro instead of the macro and just put it here in the U.S. and just leave it here, then there's never been that oppression. Like so it's kind of hard. Like for reals, you call any white person a honk and they're like, oh, okay, cool, like that's fantastic, buddy. because there's no history of hate
Mhm.
with that. There's not. The ass whooping you'll remember though.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting, I mean, it's a really delicate, difficult thing to talk about because I guess, I mean, unless you've lived it, you won't really understand it. But at the same time, if you've lived it, then you don't really, maybe, I don't know. Do you really understand the other side either?
Not. I don't think so. Like I've always tried to put myself in those shoes. Like this concept, I actually, for whatever reason, I understood very young because I didn't know when we used to get bused to school from the hood, they would bus us down to the DTC area to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously down
that's
there,
a long ways.
a long way, dude, a long
Yeah.
way. So we would get bused down to the DTC area. So yeah, we were up on the west side of King and Colfax, and then we would go down to the DTC area over by Micro Center where that's at right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's a school there. It's called Samuel Elementary. Well, there's nothing but white people down there, or else, or that's what it was back then. Back then, the demographics would have been upper middle class where that school's at. So here you have a bunch of little brown kids that are being bused to upper middle class neighborhoods to go to school, just because our school wasn't big enough. It would end at second grade, and then third, fourth, and fifth, we'd have to go to that school. So there, I found a lot of my friends who would end up talking shit about the white kids that were there. You fucking yuppies, and you guys ain't shit and stuff like that. And it was in moments of like clarity, especially when I was like in fifth grade, where it's just like, well, it's not their fault. Their parents are fucking rich and our parents are fucking poor as fuck. Like it's like they're just kids. Like it's
Did you start yelling on the bus at all the hypocrites?
no, but the only ones that I would really yell at are the ones that were actually my friends.
Yeah.
Like the ones that were actually my friends, because I'd go hang out with the white kids. We'd play soccer or whatever. We'd whoop on the white kids. And you go talk to them or whatever. And then a lot of them would get mad or jealous. Like, what the fuck you doing with talking to the white people? It's just like, well, it is what it is. Like, what the fuck you mad about? Like,
because I've used up all the chicks in this group.
they can't handle my Roberto Esquivel Cabrera anymore.
Cabron, look at this, cabron. Yeah.
Oh,
so,
it's so funny. We were watching, or the kids were watching. I was taking a nap and I woke up to Orale, Orale. And then I look up on the screen, it's fucking Stand and Deliver.
oh yeah.
Talk about fucking Mexicans just perpetrating the fucking stereotypes like to a fucking core. Nothing like Edward James Olmos to fucking give us the stereotype, the Mexican stereotype, so fucking good. Orale, orale,
Orale. That's where I first heard that,
orale,
and I didn't know what it meant. I would just go around saying it to people,
orale.
and I said it to a couple of Mexican kids one time, and they were like, "What did you say to us?" And I'm like, "Oh my god, I don't know what I said."
The Mexican on TV said he's like, orale.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's 100% true that that it does go both ways, but it doesn't translate in either direction. And I think, I mean, and I'm guilty of this a lot. I'm not gonna pretend like I'm above this, but I see people make assumptions about what the other side is going through, and like it's like somebody telling you your business.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't know what I've been through, and like, no, I don't know what you've been through. I'm trying to figure out what you've been through, and I mean, we make a lot of assumptions
A lot.
on a regular basis.
Correct.
And I think we just need to give each other a little bit of like cut each other a little bit of a break, and just stop treating each other like we're all hostile. You know, just because I say something that may not be true out of ignorance doesn't mean I hate you. You know.
Well, and it's that intention is just, that's why we always got to be careful. You see this a lot amongst black people and Hispanics or Latinos or Mexicans, whatever the fuck you want to call them, especially like Puerto Ricans, where there's a lot of leniencies in words that white people are not allowed to use, but we are allowed to use with each other. Because like we know for a fact, we're 99% sure that the intention isn't malicious. So when you get an outside force who tries to use certain words that they've been excluded from using in modern time, it's because you don't understand 100%. But at the same time, it's just learning that intention. You really don't know 100% the intention, and all that stuff. But we perceive it as we're going off of history instead of what the fuck's going on the current moment.
Yeah, and I think we've all made it very easy to be offended, because the internet is a great place to act like your life has been ruined by what somebody said to you, and like
you have to show the gringos how gringo you are, and have to show the Mexicans how Mexicans we are. It's exhausting. Yeah, shit is 100%.
I feel like that is your life for sure.
It is.
Yeah. So I saw a video of this guy walking around a campus, and he was asked, or it wasn't a campus, it was a conference for educators to talk about white privilege, and learn about white privilege. And all these people he's asking, he's asking all these white people these questions, and it's clear that they're brainwashed. And I say that because they all answered the question the same exact way. Not just using the same words, but with the same cadence, the same speech patterns and everything. And it was really kind of crazy to watch. Then he goes around and asks all these black people, what do you think about white privilege? And of course, they're all like, I don't think about white privilege. I just worry about myself. And people will take that and be like, see, I knew it. Black people don't care about white privilege. Like, no, the black people you saw in that video don't care. But now you're just generalizing all these people again, just to further cement your worldview that privilege doesn't exist.
I had this conversation with a reporter. The very first time we did the Denver Guns Day, and he asked me, he's like, "Well, what do you feel about veterans who are anti-gun? Because there's a lot of veterans that just don't like guns." They're like, "Yeah, fucker, that's like the Trump supporters bringing out the one Mexican that supports Trump. Like that's the exception, not the rule."
Yeah. And we don't really know. Are you going to go out there and ask every Mexican? Like, do you think all the Mexicans? I mean, you're making a judgment that everybody in the group should be judged according to what one person in the group says.
Correct.
And we're all looking for confirmation that our viewpoint is correct, so we're going to take it from wherever we can get it. And I was going to say that is a trick that is played, that if you watch late night TV, well, back when late night TV existed, before all these entertainers started virtue signaling by conducting their stupid shows in their basement. Wait a minute, that's what we're doing. But the man on the street, Jay Leno does this, Jimmy Kimmel does this, Letterman used to do this. Man on the street, how far, or point to the state of Missouri. You can't point to state of Missouri. Well, how many people do you think you had to ask before you got all the funny answers to the question in order to make the bit work?
Yeah, they were out there hours, dude.
Yeah, I'm sure they're running into people and they're like, "Where's Missouri?" And they're like, "Oh, it's right here." "Oh, thanks. Have a nice day." It's a trick. It's a trick that's being played to get you to think one way or the other. And when it's played for a laugh, you can take it for that. You can be like, that's funny. That guy doesn't know where Missouri is, But if you base your worldview off of that, that's pretty stupid.
Or the individuals who are just not that great under pressure and just
the
answer is just, I've got a fucking camera and Jay motherfucking Leno right in front of me.
Yeah.
Fucking question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and here's the kind of the paradox. I've been getting into this a lot more lately just because I get in these kicks where if I watch a video about aviation and it's interesting to me, then I just fucking go on months of just fucking hardcore nerding out on that shit. So my nerd out right now is back to physics. How much do you understand the special relativity?
No, oh, dude. When you said physics, I thought we were going to be talking about gravity and friction and force and that kind of stuff. Beyond that, I have no idea.
Right.
It is all beyond me.
Yeah. So if I wasn't horrible at math, that's probably what I would have done. But I'm fucking horrendous at math. So the special theory is this idea that light is constant for everyone, regardless of where you're seeing it. Part of it, it's such a complex equation, and it's such a complex thought, but because there's many segments to it, it's not just one fucking small thing. But it's this idea we were talking about, how the perception in relativity, in special relativity, like regardless of where you're at, one basic point of it is if you think you're moving or if you think you're standing still, you're right. So regardless of where you're at, if you're on a plane and you think you're moving, you're right. But sometimes you look out the fucking plane and you think you're just stationary and the world is moving around you, you're also correct. Like, it's regardless of what the fuck's going on, you are 100% correct. I mean, we can get into time dilation. And
does that mean that you're also 100% wrong?
No, it means you're 100% correct.
No, but like if
in this instance, you wouldn't be 100% incorrect. No, you would just be correct.
Okay, but could you simultaneously be correct and incorrect?
In this particular, not for special relativity.
Oh, not for special relativity. Okay,
not for special relativity.
Man,
no.
I can't even say that word.
So the
relative. Never mind.
Like it just like no matter what concept you kind of look at, it just for a lot of those that's just my truth. My truth is right now in this chair I am stationary. Although many people would argue, well, no, you're moving because the fucking Earth is rotating and it's also orbiting the fucking Earth or the sun on a fucking ellipsis. So either way, you're right. Like either way, it's fucking correct. If you're on a train moving, you're correct. Stationary, you're correct. So we all have this different viewpoints of our own reality based off of. We've talked about this before. It gets so complex, and it's just like, I don't know. Can you be wrong? That's the
okay. So this is where it gets slippery, because when you're talking about really hardcore,
Ted Moyer says you're losing me. Shit, if I really talked about, if we really talked about special relativity and time dilation and how time slows down and how objects contract based off of speed, it's fucking mind-boggling.
Yeah, this is why I can barely handle watching the Netflix version of this stuff. So here's the thing: when you talk about things like this, you're talking about a level of understanding about the universe that we don't fully understand it. So how can we possibly apply it to social issues and psychological issues? And in my opinion, the best way to know whether or not something is true is to apply it across time and see if it's repeatable and successful.
But I think that's part of, in my opinion, like in looking back into this, I think that's why we've had such an easy fallout. I think that's why this society, the one we're in right now, and I would say even from the 80s forward,
because we treat everything as relative.
No, I think it's because we have no understanding of the universe. Like back then, we like if you look at the early 1900s, we were savages and we were fucking disgusting humans and shit like that. Like Snoop Dogg made the point. There's this new song out, and everybody's fucking up in arms about it. And I guess there was an artist back in 1950 who was talking about fucking eating asshole and shit like that. Like she was talking about that shit a long time ago. In the early 1900s, it's not that we weren't disgusting human beings back then, but we had a better understanding of what the world was all about and the universe worked. I mean, a lot of these people our rock stars were different. Our celebrities were different.
Our heroes. I mean, that's essentially what a celebrity is a type of hero.
Yeah, absolutely. It was very different. Like you can see people idolizing Newton and Newtonian law and Einstein and engineers and inventors and scientists and presidents and shit like that. Like it was just a completely different thing. Now it's just we don't understand how silly it all is.
So this is a sort of a discussion of the difference between using logic to run our society and using what's a good word that's not going to trigger people.
Fucking trigger them.
Not spiritualism, not religion, but
retardedism.
Like what's the
emotion? Because a lot of religion is emotion.
Let's say myth.
Yeah.
Myth is a non judgmental term because myth actually means a lot more than just something that never happened. So
Stephen Hawking was wrong like 99% of the time. I think only one of his theories has been proven correct. So fuck Hawkins.
You can't say that to a guy who got as much poontang as he did.
He probably did.
He did, man. Did you see that movie they made about him?
Oh yeah, it's a movie though.
Yeah, but he does have all those kids. Like those are real.
Meals on wheels.
So spiritualism or mysticism or we're not going to talk about Shapiro. I don't even know why you brought that up, Miguel. I hate Ben Shapiro. This is more about something that Jordan Peterson has been talking about for a long time, and he's not the first one. He's just the one that I'm listening to talk about it. Yeah. And it's the dichotomy between the logic and reason and the mysticism and spiritualism. It turns out that the mystics and the spiritualists and basically religion itself tried to break down and understand the world at a deeper level than just understanding special relativity. And special relativity is deep in and of itself, but only in that it's hard to understand. It doesn't provide us necessarily with a way to live, a way to view the world in a practical way that
there's no absolute. I think the problem with science is that it sets it up in a manner where you have to ask more questions. And I think with religion, it's like, oh no, there has to be a black and white. That's it.
There may, yeah, that's possible. That's possibly true. But if you look at survival, if you look at surviving in the forest as an advanced primate, there really is a black and white whether or not you're going to survive. You know, and if you base your societal structure on things that either work or don't work, you have a lot better chance, I think, of being successful than everybody saying, well, my truth is different than your truth. It's like that doesn't work for a society. We can't build a structure based on, on that. We have to have something fundamental that we all agree on. And that's to me, that's what's infuriating about dealing with these rioters or protesters is there's nothing you can say, okay, this is what you really think. Because the rules don't apply to them. They don't operate by a set of rules. They operate based on what works in the moment for them. Yeah. What advances the goal or the strategy in the moment. So is it expedient for us right now to beat up a trans woman in the street? Yes. Okay, we'll do it. Not is it wrong to do that, period. Or is this really a protected group of people that we're not going to mess with? No, it's not. We're going to mess with anybody we feel like we need to mess with in order to advance our cause. And so I want to trigger Tad some more. but I don't know how to do it. I don't know what his triggers are.
I think it was fuck Ben Shapiro.
Oh, Benjamin. So I think that there should be both. I think I think we should have scientists, and modern medicine's awesome. And I'm really glad that my mom can walk around with a hip here that doesn't make her feel like, she's in excruciating pain all the time. And, if I have a heart attack, I'm definitely going to expect them to jumpstart my heart and keep me alive. But at the same time, if we try to use science to develop a morality, that's a road that's been tried many times, and it's brutal and it's vicious.
See, for my in my perspective, anyways, for me, because I'm kind of in the middle. I think for me, it's just understanding the complexities of it. Like it's just like understanding that. From my point of view, it's just like if for me personally, when I think of shit like that, how this shit's proven, like Einstein shit is no longer a theory. This shit's fucking fact. Like it's been proven time and time again. Part of the frustration amongst current physicists is that they can't disprove him. They can't, as much as they've tried, they just cannot prove him wrong 100 years later with technology from today, and they still can't steer away from that. And it's such a complex fucking thought. Like you think, like it's just simple relativity, and then it brought on general relativity, which is space time and all that shit. For me, it's just like when you think about how complex this universe is, whether you believe in a deity or you don't believe in a deity, it's like you beating the shit out of a fucking trans individual is like retarded. Like when you really think of it as a whole, like your little issues, whatever internal fucking social problems you have is just so minuscule. It's just like it for me is just the comprehension of how fucking retarded I am to get upset over something that is insignificant in the moment. And it happens to me. Like I want nothing more than for Justin Smith to go away and go in a cave somewhere. But that's the emotional side of it. Like when you really think about it and you really dive deep, like I have to fight that battle. I have to fight it because it's the right thing to do. But at the same time, like when it's all said and done, like it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things.
Oh man, that's a whole nother level. Because I would argue that all those little things make up the whole big thing. And the whole big thing extends all the way to the edges of the universe and to the edges of physics. But at the same time, like you can't think like that in your day-to-day life, man. It would be overwhelming. I was explaining this to my son who's starting 7th grade today, who has a somewhat of an issue following directions at school. His 3rd grade teacher to this day will not look me in the eye because of the damage he did to her office one day. Like, I'm not kidding. I'm not exaggerating. When I go into that school, she avoids me. She will not speak to. I know she knows who I am, and we used to be on speaking terms, but now it's like I am not talking to you. So he injured his knee back in January, and he's still in physical therapy for his ACL repair. And in physical therapy, he has to do these exercises that he can't always do. And so one of these exercises is a one-legged squat down to a certain level and then stand back up on his bad knee. And he's trying to get cleared to go drive his go-kart. But he can't get cleared to drive his go-kart till he passes some milestones in physical therapy. So his immediate goal is pass these milestones so he can go drive his go-kart. And if you know anything about working out or lifting weights or strength training or anything like that, you learn that you have to do the exercise correctly, because otherwise, if you don't, you're not actually strengthening anything and you could be risking injury. So when you go to do a deadlift, your back is going to want to try to do all the work. But you can't let your back do all the work, because if your back does all the work, you're going to kill your back.
Correct.
And that's a natural law. If you exert your body in a certain way, it will get injured, or you run a very high risk of injury, and you can't cheat that. You can't actually build the muscle if you don't do the exercise correctly. So you have to do it right. And if you do it wrong, you're not going to achieve your goal. And in fact, you're going to make things worse. So when he's doing these squats, his body is trying to compensate. He's leaning different directions. He's using other muscles rather than the one he's supposed to be using. And so I said, if you do it wrong, is it helping? He says, no. So you got to do it right. Otherwise, it doesn't help. You have to perform the action correctly. Otherwise, the natural world is going to reject you. And it's going to say, we're not doing this. And the way we interact with people is the same thing. You have to follow a certain set of rules. Otherwise, you are not going to achieve your goal. And they're not man-made rules. Man has based their rules off of these things because we've learned over time that these things work or these things don't work. And so it does matter that you stand up for the right thing with the sheriff.
Correct.
It does matter. Because it follows the same rule that the entire universe is built on. You don't let people walk all over you and everybody else just because they have a psychological problem with accepting the truth. If this guy had a psychological problem with accepting the truth that didn't have anything to do with you, then yeah, it's probably not your problem. But because it's landed in your lap, now you have a responsibility to deal with it. And if you don't, you are rejecting natural law in effect. You are shirking your responsibility to stand up to somebody who is trying to oppress you and other people.
For being a little bitch. He's
exactly.
A little bitch.
And so part of it is like, because you've said to me a bunch of times, like, I'm done with this. I don't want to deal with this anymore.
That's why I say that. The reason I've always said, like, I'm just done with doing this shit. Like, and I've been done for a very long time. One of the reasons why I haven't got out is because we need to find somebody that's going to continue the fucking work, somebody who's doing it. And when I say like it doesn't matter, like it matters for me, but in the long run, it doesn't matter. Like nobody appreciates that shit. There's like a handful of people that appreciate the fight that we're going in. Everybody else, like even our allies, dude, like I don't know if I should put it out there, but there's one individual who's from Philly who was supposed to help me do a video and promote the GoFundMe so we can raise money for this shit. And like we've been there for this individual from the beginning. Like we didn't have to work with him at a certain point. And then now it's just like ghosted. Like, hey, dude, you said you were gonna help me out. What the fuck? And like nothing, no text back, no nothing. So now it's just like, okay, cool. And then you see shit like that. You see segments of like, hey, you said you were gonna help out. What the fuck? Here we are. I've been helping you out with this shit, that shit, the other shit. And it is a lot of like, hey, we're in this together, so we help each other out.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it is just my own expectations. When that's the worst thing you could ever have of another human being is some sort of expectation that's unrealistic.
Sometimes it's even having a realistic expectation is detrimental to your health.
So, and a lot of it is just like, okay, well, I know what I expect from myself every single day. Like I expect on good days, because I find myself with a lot of just lack of motivation a lot of the times. But I understand that I just have to push myself to do the shit that needs to get done. Because I know what it takes. Like I just know what it takes. And when you see these, I say that it doesn't matter because once it's done, then everybody just kind of forgets about it.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody just leaves it alone. Everybody's just like,
yeah, but
it's like an afterthought at that point. Yeah, and I know, like Dave says, he appreciates it, and I know he does it. Like I know there's like a handful of people that have always been there, will always appreciate it, but in the whole, in its totality, like it
doesn't feel proportional. The support doesn't feel proportional to the.
It's not even the support, because that's relative. That's pretty egotistical for me.
Well, what I mean is like I mean more about the numbers of people than I do about like one person's contribution. because we all have lives, we all have things.
Yeah, but I still don't want it to be like, oh, well, I want people to support the Second Amendment. I don't want people to be out there donating to the GoFund and shit like that. Like, I want people to donate to the podcast because that's selfish.
Mm-hmm.
That's 100% selfish. But when we're talking about the 2A or a collective, like, it's just a whole organism that we're fighting for and we're trying to defend. That's not a selfish thing. Like, we're trying to preserve the Second Amendment. We're not trying to preserve guns for everyone, because guns for everyone isn't the Second Amendment. We're just a small little fucking spick and speck. In the 2A community that is trying to do something. It's just, I wish more people were like enthusiastic. So when I see that shit, it's just like, okay, we're gonna fight this fight. And then nobody's paying attention to it. Nobody's really sharing it the way they're supposed to. And it's not about us. It's just like, this is a super fucking important fight.
Well, obviously, we haven't made it racist enough, and that's our own fault.
I need to throw on a fucking charro hat and get on my horse and buy myself a 38 Super.
You need to get on the news wearing a Che Guevara shirt, and then you'll get everybody on your side. So what I'll say though is, like, this in some ways seems small and insignificant, partly because people in general, people you would think would care about this, don't seem to care.
And again, that was just the example. It's like it doesn't have to be about that. That's just an example because it's current truth at the moment.
Yeah, it's a good example because we have firsthand knowledge of it, and we can speak from experience instead of just guessing at it. We know that Sheriff Justin Smith is a liar. We know that he is denying.
That's not even an opinion at this point. That is a fact.
It's verifiable fact.
Verifiable fact.
We know that he has done what could easily be defined as corrupt practices to restrict the rights of his citizens in his county for their right to carry. And that's a problem of significance, especially because he's in a position of authority. And this fell into our laps to deal with this. And I didn't want to deal with this. And even before this happened, you said, I don't know if we're going to run into problems with this. And I'm like, yeah, we'll be fine. We're not going to run into problems. Like, that was my optimistic, don't want to deal with nonsense attitude. So this is fallen on us to deal with, and in the grand scheme of things, it's not like we're fighting the American Revolution here. I have to be really careful how I talk about this, because sometimes I'm listening to myself talk and I'm like, wow, you sound really arrogant right now. But again, this is an example where we have firsthand knowledge, so it's like this is the best example for us to talk about. If we don't do anything about this, then that behavior gets a free pass to continue.
Correct.
And it becomes harder for the next person to do anything about it. Correct. Because now he's got a winning record of dealing with people who challenge his authority, and people assume that he's always right because he always wins. And that creates a system that's ripe for further abuse and further corruption.
Correct.
And I would argue that the whole reason why we're in the situation we are in this country right now, where we have mobs running through the street, assaulting people, and we have people who are glorifying the idea of slaughtering these people, and we have politicians who can't do anything about it, is we have reached a level of corruption that has become cancerous to our society, and we are risking the decline of our way of life because of corruption.
Yeah, dude, like, and I think a lot of people already knew this, where we're kind of slowly changing the topic, like on the corruption side of it is just really quick to update people, the case right now, what I know of, from the little bit that I know from litigation, we are in a good position because they haven't told us to change anything. So there was a time when a gun store sued Denver for shutting down and not including gun stores in the essential. and they got rejected almost instantly. They say, no, this needs to come from a consumer, not from a gun store. You have a vested interest in being open. We want to hear from a consumer who feels this way. That's what the judge said. So at this point, we're there. So at least it hasn't been rejected. But other than that, it's still going along. It's still going along. But
the lawsuit was only filed late 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
Later in the week, 2 weeks ago.
So not this week, not this Friday, but the Friday before that, or the Thursday before that.
Right. So it's still pretty early on, and we have some other hurdles to clear. We need more plaintiffs in the case.
Yeah. So there's no issue in standing. On the corruption thing is just like a lot of people already knew this, and one could argue very easily that the corruption within our government is not any less, maybe not any greater than the corruption that's in Mexico or any other developing country. Our corruption, though, has just always been very well hidden by the guise of the rule of law. Or our politicians won't do that because we've got a judicial system that'll take care of them, and all I have to do is just vote and then vote them out. And
but people don't even do that. They'll like in this. I mean, I've made it clear that I'm going to vote for Trump and why I'm voting for Trump, and it has nothing to do with Republican, Democrat, or anything like that. And I have no doubt he's a horrible person. I have a very specific issue I'm voting on, but this election is a terrible person versus another terrible person. Yeah,
pedo versus pedo.
Pedo versus pedo. And I'm guilty of making this argument too. And like I'm sitting in a place of cognitive dissonance about it because I don't know what else to do about it. But it's like, well, I'm going to vote for this guy because the other guy's horrible. You know, like, well, they're both horrible. You know, you just happen to have one or two issues you agree with this horrible guy on. And that's the way we've voted for so long. And it's at the presidential level, it pretty much doesn't matter, in my opinion. It matters at the local level. Right. It matters at the city and the state level. And even then, it's only borderline effective because we don't hold these people accountable for their actions.
Yeah. But we've seen this corruption for so long. But again, everybody's just in this idea that no, if Trump did something really horrible or corrupt, then he'll just go to jail because that's just the way our country works. Or like, but no, we see it time and time again. Hillary should be in jail. Fucking Bush, Obama should be in jail.
Michelle Obama.
Basically, every modern president and first lady probably should be in jail. Like legit.
Yeah.
They've all done some really fucked up, shady shit that you could probably prove in court that they fucking took bribes. Biden sat at in another fucking country's parliament, wherever the fuck he was, like, nah, like you want that motherfucker, you want that billions, like get that motherfucker out.
He bragged about it in public.
He was on TV.
This was considered good diplomacy.
Dude, he was on TV saying you want that fucking bill, like fucking get rid of that motherfucker.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, okay, cool. Like, yeah.
No, that's good policy right there. That's good policy. That's how we get things done.
That's blackmail. like it's just, like holy shit.
Miguel went hard in the paint here. And by the way, that comment got held for review, Miguel. He said Melania needs to get deported and all of her anchor babies. And that got held for review by YouTube. He didn't even there's nothing in there that's offensive. They took the combination of anchor and babies and they're like, this is offensive. How about that, dude? That's kind of crazy. Yeah.
So it's insane. But you're right. I think it's just that level of corruption, the level of
now nobody like there's something to remember here that nobody's perfect. I mean, if you look at Lincoln close enough, you'll find some serious flaws. You'll find him making some seriously flawed constitutional decisions. But the reason why he did it.
Oh, didn't he got rid of? Is it habeas corpus?
Yeah, suspended habeas corpus. Basically, issued an executive order freeing all the slaves in a country in states where he had no jurisdiction. You know, I mean, he was like the original, I have a pen and a phone and a telephone or something. What did Obama say? I have a pen and a phone. I can get anything I want done. Like he definitely busted some rules up, but he's hailed as a hero because essentially,
Shot.
from my own personal perspective, he was trying to do the best thing he could do for the country at the moment. And you can give him kind of a pass for some of that stuff. And I'm speaking in hugely generalized terms here, but when you have an administration that is doing side deals with the Russians for uranium and for clout and power and control of parts of Europe that have nothing to do with this country, and they're just lining their pockets, like there's no excuse for that.
Correct.
You can't make the excuse that they're trying to save the republic,
Oh,
and
we're a democracy, dude. Read the comments.
oh right, sorry, democracy. Yes, this is what democracy looks like. Bribing or extorting leaders of sovereign nations to stop investigating your kid. And so we have a responsibility, and this is how I try to view my own life, even though I fail at this, but we have a responsibility to do the right thing, whether it's picking up the piece of trash that you dropped when you're walking out of the grocery store, or whether it's holding people accountable that you have the power to hold accountable.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that, eventually the system degrades, and it gets to the point where we have mobs in the streets. And that sounds hyperbolic, but if you want to sit and yell at Facebook about how this country's gone down the tubes, but you can't even get your own life in order, like you're not helping. That's not doing any good.
Correct.
And if you're hoping for an opportunity to shoot an Antifa guy in the face, you're like, let them come to my house, because I see people talking like this. I'll let them come to my house, see what happens. Like, man, you are way past the point of doing anything useful.
Correct.
Yeah,
because at this point, you're just the reaction to the action. You're no longer the frontline individual. Like, it's just like with everything else. Like the stopping point was somewhere else. Like if you're already yelling and getting mad, like it's just like.
And it's really hard. A lot of this stuff is hard. I remember about a year or so ago on the podcast, you were telling me that there's no reason why I couldn't homeschool my kids, and I was arguing with you that I couldn't possibly do it. But really, if I really think about it and really boil it down, it seems to me that I have a responsibility to do that at this point, because the school system is corrupting my kids as far as I'm concerned.
Well, that's always been my position. Like it's not easy. Letitia will probably tell you that she hates it.
Mm-hmm.
But the alternative is you let the enemy eat your kids.
And I know that. And
Correct.
It's not changing my behavior. Like, I'm like, okay, I understand. I'm not going to do it though.
I we all have a point where, and this is the reality, is like we have to hate the position that we're in
mm-hmm.
a lot more than the effort that it takes to get out of there.
Exactly. And I'm not at that point. And I probably should be, but for whatever reason, I don't let my psyche go there.
No, it's like for me, like my weight issue, like it's a constant thing that I think about, almost a daily thing at this point. And I'm getting there to the point where it's just like, okay, I hate how fat I am, but it's still not enough to hate exercising that much more.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know of anybody. Well, I know very few people who are just like, oh fuck, I want to go work out and shit like that. Like, it's just very few people are like that. Once you start doing it, it gets fun and whatever. But I hate that more than I hate being fat. So until I hate being fat more than exercising, then I'm gonna be fat.
Yeah, I like working out. I know that I like working out. It's that it's that 30 seconds of decision it takes to get out of my chair, change my shoes, and grab my phone so that I can use it for working out.
Yeah.
And it's just like that tiny little speed bump. And the longer I go, the smaller that speed bump gets. I have an exercise machine literally 5 feet that direction. It's right there. And I will sit all day at my desk while I'm working. I'm like, all right, 30 minutes from now. And then 30 minutes comes up. It's like, let me get another cup of coffee instead, And I know that all I need to do is stand up and grab those shoes and get to work. Yeah. And I'm like, I'll do it in 20 minutes. And I feel like such a piece of shit for it, It almost seems like if it was harder, I would do it. Because the easier it gets, the less I do it.
It's not enough of a challenge.
It's not enough of a challenge, yeah. But I know I enjoy it, and I even enjoy being sore, and I even enjoy, like feeling like I'm going to throw up. Because that lets me know I'm doing something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this year my kids are in school in a new era. The new era of indoctrination, where it's become acceptable to just teach flat out Marxist ideas to your kids in school under the umbrella of racial harmony, and like, I'm not saying this because I don't want my kids to learn about black people. I just don't want the state telling my children that it's okay to tear down a system that you don't even understand and replace it with something that doesn't work. And
I think they should start off by talking to them the exact history of Cuba, and like what happened when the Marxists came in.
Oh no, you don't know. Cuba's got a great medical system.
Oh yeah, amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Should tell the Cubans.
Yeah, well, it's it's for all the people who haven't been disappeared.
Yeah, they should tell all the Cubans in Florida.
Yeah,
like you will not. I don't think you'll find a bigger concentration of motherfuckers who hate the Cuban system as much as the Cubans that are in Florida right now that had to flee, or their grandparents had to flee, or
you're just saying that from a position of privilege.
Privilege, yeah, of course.
Which is a weird argument. So you're privileged for growing up here and not in Cuba?
So, and a lot of those people did grow up in Cuba. They fucking had to do the 90-mile trek north to fucking Florida.
Yeah.
To find out. And I mean, it just the shit that the Cubans went through, dude. I'm telling you, but gay people and black people, like, there was a shit ton more gay people and black people in Cuba before Castro.
So what do you think is the reason why the Marxist movements initially take all the minorities and oppressed people? I guess that's kind of a self-explanatory question. The answer is in the question. They initially take these people and use them to build the movement and then very quickly discard them. I guess the question is, why do they discard them so quickly?
Because they're the ones that are in the way. Like they're the ones that started the movement. The black people can't be bigger than the movement.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for a lot of these individuals is like, okay, cool, we're done with you. We don't need you anymore. Our movement has succeeded. You are bigger than my movement. The whole reason this movement exists is because of you. So we just need to get rid of you now. I mean, that's what happened to a lot of the small business owners that were bitching in Cuba at the beginning. Like, yeah, I'm a small business owner and I see a lot of corruption and I see, and there was legit corruption going on in Cuba before Castro went there. We can't be blind to that shit. But so you got a lot of small business owners who say, well, that's fucked up the way I get fucked, and the elite don't get fucked. Basically what we're bitching about right now, like the little fucking man stays little and the fucking big corporations always succeed, and regardless of what the fuck happens. It seems like the more tragedy happens, the more Walmart and Amazon makes money, which is...
It's weird. It's like the opposite of the fascist type movement, where the fascist type movement takes the strongest elements of society, formulates them into a national identity, and uses that to stomp and oppress on everybody who stands in the way.
Yeah.
You know, because it was like the cream of the crop that took over in Nazi Germany in the 30s.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and with these guys, it's just like, okay, we're going to use poor people, we're going to use black people, we're going to use gay people as our pillar for this movement. Because who the fuck's going to say, hey, fuck all the, and in Cuba's point, I mean, it was Cubans, or either black Cubans or brown Cubans. We're going to take the darker Cubans, we're going to use them as our movement, we're going to get the poor people, we're going to use them for our movement. But once we're done, then we don't fucking need them anymore. And they're going to be vocal. Like, now we've taught them how to fight. Now we've taught them how to be politically involved. Now we've taught them how to get their point across, and that's a threat to our system.
So they're like they're the initial poison for the system, and then the system needs to get rid of the poison that they applied to the system.
What they say, the poison's in the antidote.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a weird concept, and it's so strikingly different than a fascist concept, but it kind of ends up as the same thing. Because it is the more powerful people that end up controlling the movement that originally they were. I mean, look at the it's only Democrats right now who are running this show, but Nancy Pelosi's not going to step aside. You know, Chuck Schumer's not going to step aside.
Nope.
And be like, okay, now we're gonna have a black trans Speaker of the House.
Nope.
So it's really odd, and it's funny that these people don't know this. Maybe it's not funny. I mean, it takes a lot of life experience to learn this kind of stuff, and it's mostly the young who are participating in this, and they don't have any experience to go off of. But you don't see the pattern here, because the pattern is definitely there. The poor were the ones who were blamed for the famines in Russia, in Stalinist Russia. It was supposed to be the poor who were the saviors of Russia, and they got blamed for the shortages of food.
Correct.
And were slaughtered.
Correct.
And they were blamed and outed and killed by the landowners and the elite in their areas who became Communist Party members and ran the what were they called, the tribunals to get rid of these people. It was like, you still have the same masters, and now they have the authority to kill you, whereas before they only had the authority to tax you. Yeah,
it's I don't know. It's mind-boggling how willing we are to ignore facts over feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just so mind-boggling because and I don't know where in the conservative thing. I'm going to let out a little bit of thing that I don't let out too often, but I guess we've steered away from the gun shit on this podcast enough to whatever. Like I am vehemently against abortion.
Mm-hmm.
Not a fan. And it's crazy how that has become more of a conservative fight. And like that's the only time where I see where feelings don't matter. Like everywhere else is like, oh, you got to care about the babies, you got to care about the poor people. I'm sorry, about poor people. You got to care about gay people. You got to care about Mexicans. You got to care about a fucking laundry list. And it's weird, like that one area where the conservatives are like, nah, we need to protect this. Like, because usually conservatives are like, fuck it all, let's burn it all to hell.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't meet the bottom line, then just whatever. Obviously, I'm grossly exaggerating. And that's the one thing that the conservatives have. And ironically, that's the one where the Marxists and all that are like, no, fuck the babies. Like, let's just fucking kill them. So it's weird to see this
or literally fuck the babies.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's just it's this weird dynamic where, like, if you take it, regardless of what history says, regardless of what science says, regardless of what anything says, because the opposite side has taken that, we're going to fight against it. Like it's weird. It's fucking weird as fuck how we've become so stupid.
Well, we've been enabled to become stupid in new and interesting ways, and I think it's because there's a lot of reasons, but we're slowly losing our moral compass. And if you have a strong moral compass, it's easier. You're more aware of those cognitive dissonance moments where you're like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Like I have to find the right answer here instead of just being like, no, this is what I think and you're stupid for believing different.
Correct.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, the world's a complex place, and I don't think we're designed to deal with this many issues at once. And maybe we just hit a point where we're just like, I can't make sense of it. I'm just going to go with what I think. And anybody who thinks different needs to go to hell.
Well, and they want us to solve all of these issues by solving one issue. Like I'm me personally as a Mexican who grew up, and see, I'm going to start saying Mexican first now on everything. More than I normally do now.
Yeah, you could treat it like a game, like
yeah.
you can rack up a score. How many times today?
Mexican. So as a Mexican who grew up in the U.S. of A., I want nothing more than systemic racism to go away, because I lived it. I've experienced it. Even when I was blind to it, like looking back, it was just like, oh shit, like that's what systemic racism was. Like that's why it happened the way it happened. But we can't fix that if we're also trying to fix the police issue all at the same time. We can fix them together. It's just like the media and politicians are wanting it to be one problem. Like, no, it's just like there is systemic issues, but we have to fix it all from the top. Like, getting rid of the cops, which I'm all for, by the way, isn't going to solve systemic racism, because systemic racism comes from Pelosi. It comes from Kamala Harris. It comes from Joe Biden. It comes from Trump. It comes from Bush, and it comes from the Republicans, and it comes from the Democrats. Getting rid of the cops is only getting rid of a small fucking element in the systemic racism thing. Like it's not. You're not going at the root at all.
What do you think the root is?
Yeah, that's. I mean, politicians is the root.
Well, no, I mean, because politicians are people, and
Yeah.
and racism has been a problem since, for forever, longer than we can probably even record. Like, what is this solution? How do we deal with this in a way that actually makes any sense? And I don't really mean on a systemic level. I mean, how do we create people who don't create systemic problems?
Yeah, I don't think we do. I don't think we can. I don't think that's in our. I don't think that's in our DNA. I hate to say it. Like, if we look at Mexico, and I always bring up Mexico because, well, I know Mexico. I've lived there. I have family who lives there. I'm in contact with the motherland. So like I'm, although I may not be there constantly all the time, like I understand it's politics, because I have parents who participated in its politics. I have aunts, uncles who participate in their politics. So if we look at even Mexico, it's such a complex. I mean, this is a country that just recently accepted Afro-Mexicans as a race, as a people.
What about Chinese Mexicans?
I don't think they've done that. To be honest with you, I don't think, I don't know enough about it, but and Mexico is relatively diverse, especially down towards the south, because a lot of the Asians came up from South America into Central America and Mexico, when they started fleeing their countries during their wars and shit like that. So a lot of Middle Eastern people there as well. That's where you get tacos al pastor. A lot of Middle Eastern influence. So, so this is a country who on the international stage says, "Oh, the U.S. is racist" and shit like that, when they themselves still treat natives there kind of like shit. Their Native Americans are also segregated to one small little pockets, and they get looked down upon, and so I don't think we do it. I think what I do see in Mexico that is different. I'm not talking about government now. I'm talking about people as individuals. Is they don't give too much importance to what the politics say, if that makes sense. So Mexicans are, because it is a relatively poor country, I'm not worried about what the president said today. I'm worried about eating today.
Right.
And if I have to work with the black homie, like, we're not bitching about oppression because we're both fucking poor as fuck. The minorities with the majority of the people. So in Mexico, I mean, there's no rich white people in Mexico. Not like there is here in the U.S. The elites don't exist in the same way that they exist here. Here you can say, oh, it's all whitey's fault, and it's easy. There's a big divide. In Mexico, you're all Mexican. Rich Mexican, poor Mexican, middle of the road Mexican, like everybody's Mexican. In the U.S., it's identity politics, and it sucks. I see it in the 2A. I see it everywhere else. There's this big divide over just like, we have to, like, I'm white and you're Mexican. I'm white and you're black. You're black and I'm Mexican. I'm Asian, and it's this. We're so quote unquote the melting pot of the world, which is all beautiful, but it's also to our own detriment. It seems.
So 2 points made in the chat. Dave says, tribal identity shit is hardwired. You need several more millennia to evolve out of that. And like, part of me wonders if that's true, how do we do it? Do we all do it just by continually interbreeding and just eventually ruling out, or breeding out
if
differences?
if there are ladies out there that want to test out that theory and test out the interbreeding thing with me, just let me know.
But that doesn't get you where you want to be, because you slowly destroy everything that makes us interesting and different from each other.
But I think we have different cultures. I think we mistake cultures with race.
Yeah, but race is definitely strongly tied to culture.
Absolutely.
That's why Americans don't have a culture, is because we're just a conglomeration of a bunch of different races.
Oh, but we've created an American culture. Guns are an American culture, as much as I said.
That's true. We do rock on that.
We do the whole gun thing and eating hot dogs and fairs and that type of shit. So I think there is still a lot of influences from other countries, but America has developed its own Americanism based off of other countries. So I think you could still do that. Canadians, I could say, have even less fucking culture than Americans do, but I'm sure they got maple syrup. So I mean, some
they have hockey. Nobody can take that away from them. Although it didn't even start there, but Canada made hockey great. That's for sure. And then Scott says, live your life in a way that when someone brings an accusation against you, that they look like fools. And that's 100% true. And ultimately, I think that is the answer. But that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen that on a large scale, that's what we're going to value above everything else. Did you see that Cardi B interviewed Joe Biden?
No.
And she let it be known that she has her own political aspirations.
She's been saying that for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's not immediately laughed out of the room for that.
I think Trump really set the precedent for a lot of retards to run for office. Like a lot of retards are like, hey, this is president.
Yeah, I mean that's true, but so did Jesse Ventura.
When he became governor.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
and so did Arnold, and
but like with Arnold, I think with a lot of people with Arnold, they didn't see him as an idiot. They didn't see him as
true, but he was a celebrity. Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, I think the problem with Trump is one can argue that he's legit retarded. Like he is, like he's borderline. He's autistic.
That's the quote of the day. But with Trump, you could legitimately argue that he's retarded.
Like there's an argument to be had that he's autistic, dude. That he's not. I mean,
he definitely could be autistic. I'd never really considered that before, but he he definitely lacks empathy.
Like there's a lot of social structure that's lacking in his life. Like there's a lot of stuff there. So I think he opened up the door to the Cardi B's and the fucking Kim Kardashian.
Yeah, I think the door was cracked open and he kicked it down.
Probably.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because if you do see the evolution of our presidents, it's definitely gone down. I mean,
it's not an upward trend.
It's not an upward trend.
And people would argue that Obama was, but
correct.
I would argue the opposite.
So
I think he was happy being a star, and he was happy exploiting his stardom for his own ends, and like there wasn't a lot of substance there with Obama.
No, I mean he's charismatic and I would say that he's smart. I wouldn't say that he's dumb. That doesn't make it his intellect correct. Because you could be a smart Marxist, like you can be intellectual.
Dude, Greg Graffin of Bad Religion is a smart dude, and he is a complete retard.
Like it's just one of those things. It's just like I can always appreciate somebody who I can debate with on an intellectual level. Like there's plenty of Marxists out there. You're fucking retarded, but you're smart at talking your bullshit.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I would not feel comfortable getting into a debate with Noam Chomsky, even though I'm convinced he's wrong.
Correct.
He would rip me apart.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. So that's how I see Obama, but I definitely do see Obama as more of a superstar president as opposed to he was elected based off of legit presidential qualities.
Yeah. You mean being a senator for 2 years is not enough to qualify you to run the largest economy in the world?
Clearly it is. Clearly,
but he was a community organizer.
I love the people who there's one dude I shouldn't have gotten into it, but I did. He started talking shit about Trump, and this is the people that are constantly talking shit about Trump. Now, I'm not a Trump apologist by any means. I think he's fucking retarded, but like I got to call you out on your bullshit when you're constantly like just blabbing. And one of them was like, "Oh, Trump was a fucking." And I know this person loves Obama. Like this person's fucking sucking his cock all the time. And the argument was Trump never served in the military. Okay, Obama didn't either. So like, well, why does one get a pass and the other one is so fucking horrible because he's a fucking draft dodger? And that's the downward trend that we've just set. Like it's my retard is okay, your retard is not okay. My pedo's okay, your pedo's not okay. So I guess in what would it be in the 30s, whatever year? So it's 2020, 2024. So 2028, we'll see Cardi B running for office.
Well, you could even make the argument that, well, I don't know. Like,
can you imagine Cardi B, the first female president?
Well, Kamala Harris has a definite chance becoming the first female president.
I don't think they're gonna win that. Have you seen Black Twitter?
I'm not saying like win in a fair fight. I'm saying
fair enough.
Stealing the election.
Yeah.
So Kanye West is running for president, and everybody looks at him as a distraction. Like, he's not really trying to win. He's just trying to take votes away from Biden, you know, blah, 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 blah. But I think there's a good chance that he is serious about his political aspirations as well, and that he will probably end up running again in the future.
In 4 years.
And if it wasn't for the fact that he suffers from bipolar, I think he would actually make as good a president as anybody else in this decade. And like, I think his bipolar is probably overblown a little bit, but there's nothing about your personality or your problems in life that are going to get better with the responsibility of the presidency on your shoulder. You're not all of a sudden going to rise to the occasion like, oh, you know what? I should get a better control of my mental health. Like, you are going down.
So I was hearing about his Hip Hop Evolution on Netflix.
Yeah, great series.
Yeah, so they were talking about him as one of the super producers coming up, which I would argue he's not, but whatever.
I really don't know enough about his production to be able to engage.
He's done a lot of good things, but I don't think he's a super producer. But anyways, opinion.
I also don't know what his competition is. So,
Timberland, Dr. Dre, the Neptunes, Dungeon Family, all kinds of motherfuckers. But anyways, so he they were talking about how he would just fucking be in the room producing and all of a sudden jump up on a table and start rapping until everybody would listen to him. Like, you fuckers ain't going anywhere. So I can see him at the G20 summit. Like, nah, motherfuckers.
Well, I mean, he did exactly that at the Grammys.
Like, no, hold on, motherfuckers. Like, yeah, the dollar's better than the fucking pound. You can suck my dick.
I think he's actually, in my estimation, a very, very principled person. And that one of the things I am basing that off of is him writing and producing and releasing Jesus Walks. And not just for producing that song, but for doing it at the time that he did it, where hip hop was definitely going through a pop crazy, money making, no substance, all style, no substance phase. And he had the opportunity to capitalize on that and continue to do that. And he was like, you know what? I'm going to make a song about Jesus. And I think every word in that song, he's 100% serious.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think I really think that he's a genuine person. As crazy as he is, I think he's genuine about what he says and what he thinks.
Well, he's one of these weirdos where he's like, he's a Elon Musk, where he's batshit crazy, and it almost makes him a genius because he is batshit crazy.
Well, there's always an element of
correct
of
so
crazy.
There's no fear capacitor there.
Yeah,
there's no like fear element there. When you remove that fear element, like you're just batshit crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You do whatever. Your impulse control is fucking out the fucking window.
Now, there's got to be a difference between him and the guy who is sniffing glue on the side of the street, who's got the exact same potential.
Not much.
There's got to be something intelligent there, though. There's got to be, because like you look at the Yeezy shoe, right? And you're like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Correct.
But he still created it, and it's still insanely popular. To
this fucking day, dude. Like that shit. I seen somebody wanting to clean him. He was gonna pay like $200 to have somebody clean his fucking Yeezys. They were like 4 years old.
Yeah. And
like,
initially,
stupid?
when I first heard about the Yeezys, I was like, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. I didn't know that Kanye is like a fashion designer too. And I don't understand fashion at all. That's obvious in the way I dress. But like, if he excelled in that field, there must be something to it. There must be something he understands and saw in that design where he just knew, like, this is going to be a hit.
Well, he's seen other designs that were already very similar to it.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, I'll just put my own little fucking twist on it and my name on it, and then make it $400, and then ta-da.
Yeah. And there you go.
Bitches.
And he's a billionaire and I'm not. So Like it's easy to sit back and look at that stuff and like be like, I could have done that. It's like, well, you didn't.
You didn't.
He did.
You didn't.
I heard a quote that I thought was excellent. And I'm going to paraphrase it because the person I heard it from paraphrased it. Something along the lines, oh, wait, I wrote it down. There are many editors in this life and few authors. And I was like, dang, dude, that's deep.
Correct.
That's deep, man.
So the deep thing that I heard today, and this shit was pretty incredible. When did the Titanic sink?
1906?
1912.
1912. I was close. I was in
Was
the
it?
right century.
Titanic? Let me see. Titanic. 1912. I almost positive 1912.
1912. April
19
15th.
All right. So what it says been 108 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the Titanic's pool is still full. That's
That's a really well-designed pool, huh?
fucking incredible. Somewhere along the lines of many editors, not enough authors.
Yeah. Nobody else ever built a ship like the Titanic. They were innovators.
The pool is still full, motherfuckers.
Yeah, there's a thin line between success and failure. A very thin line.
Fucking very.
You could make the argument that because the Titanic in actuality was very, very poorly designed.
Yeah.
The steel used in the Titanic was very poorly designed.
Correct.
And there was some evidence that was known at the time.
Correct.
And if it hadn't hit that iceberg as hard as it did, which was rare for a passenger ship to do something like that.
Yeah.
To this day, we'd still be talking about what an innovation and how awesome the
Correct.
Titanic
How
was.
incredible it is. Not knowing that it was fucking, it's one iceberg, one medium iceberg away from fucking.
Yeah. And like if they hit that thing, if their course had been off by a half a degree, they wouldn't have hit that thing.
Correct. Well, you look at the fucking space shuttles, dude. Like, if you look at the what is it, the Columbia, the one that fucking disintegrated on entry.
Yeah.
All it was just foam. Like, this is an amazingly built $1 billion fucking machine that travels at 18,000 fucking miles an hour through space, and it goes out the fucking our atmosphere at that same speed to get into orbit, and never had failed before. And all of a sudden, a little piece of foam hits it, and it's just like, you're fucked.
How about the Challenger?
Challenger.
It was an O-ring that shouldn't have gone below freezing.
Oh, fucking
in Florida.
An O-ring, dude.
Yeah, in Florida. How do you explain that?
Shit's crazy, dude.
I mean, you have an O-ring fail in your yard. Like I have a hose that I hooked up, and it's got an O-ring failure. It's leaking all over the place, and it's like, dang, that sucks. Like I need to get that fixed. And this is on a space shuttle. And it's just like, yeah, that thing's not rated for going below freezing. It'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
That's the worst that can happen.
It really makes me feel a lot better about my own personal failures in the last few weeks.
Like it's insane, but like it's so true. It's just this very successful program defeated by a fucking O-ring.
So I want to get to a couple of these comments. I'm going to work backwards. David said Challenger was a failure of management politics. Mostly, yes, but it ultimately failed because of an O-ring. And then he also said Kanye versus Cardi 2024. And I saw your picture that you had of your screen printing machine in the shop. I think you need a shirt. That says Kanye versus Cardi 2024. That thing would sell.
Press it out right now.
And then David said, "Did you see Kanye's breakdown over abortion?" I did not. I'm gonna look that up. And then Miguel asked about Henry Rollins.
Don't you fucking skip over Miguel's comment before Henry Rollins.
I don't know what that means. Occur?
Oh, let me find it for you.
Okay. All right. So while you're finding it, he says, "What do I think of Henry Rollins?" I think Henry Rollins is awesome I think he's such a dynamic, interesting dude, and I think his politics suck. And I think he thinks he knows a lot more than he does.
You ready?
But yeah,
Invasion of Privacy dropped Friday, and thank you for being here tonight. First of all, I love the cover of the.
People would think and say,
It was beautiful. So I was wondering if you could help us out with that.
you know, that's like almost like a sad cat.
Oh, the hell?
And what?
Oh my God, I'm hosting the Jimmy Fallon.
I think I know what this one's going to be. This one is. Someone's doing it. So now this is.
Here you go.
Yeah.
So you can see it.
Oh.
You know, it's like a cold pigeon in New York City.
Okay, well, yeah. So now there's that three different variations of a cur.
Yes.
And what would like
she is high as fuck.
what would that mean?
It's just like, you know, like it depends on the situation that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like if somebody checks somebody,
Oh yeah.
it's like,
So, anyways, I can't handle more of her, dude.
She is high. She is definitely high right there.
Can you imagine that as a president, dude?
Yes.
Like,
Now I can.
Oh my god, like we're not that many fucking brain cells away from that shit, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Lord, she's retarded.
Yeah. So,
Whatever you say. Okay. Yeah.
well, you just don't understand WAP. If you understood WAP, you would understand it as art. Do you see that? I mean, I got to say this. Let me stop. WAP is a terrible song. It's awful. It's terrible.
That's the song that their Snoop Dogg had made a comment about. Like, it's just like we've been making music like this for
Yes.
centuries.
Yes. But she is talented. Like, she can rap. I don't know if she's writing that, but she can rap. Unlike a lot of other artists today who call themselves rappers who can't rap.
She did a song with Bruno Mars, and they did more like a retro like a 90s Fresh Prince of Bel-Air type shit, like not 90s hardcore rap, but like more of a Fresh Prince
Pop rap.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that wasn't bad. Like she didn't do bad. I mean, it was poorly written. It was the lyrics fucking were whack as shit.
Yeah.
But it
you can't judge people based on like one thing that they produce, but I'll say that it seems like she has talent, but it's being completely wasted.
oh my god,
Yeah.
it's just retarded.
Yeah. And then for Snoop Dogg to stand up for it and say, well, we've been doing this forever. It's like, well, then rise up and do something better because this is garbage. This is terrible.
Wait, how would you say garbage? Garbage.
And Scott says, for one of a nail, the shoe was lost. For one of a shoe, etc. Which is kind of the point I was making up earlier, which is like every little thing matters.
Yeah.
And you never know what thing is going to matter. But I'll tell you, dude, I will tell you, I have this happen all the time where you have one little thing that you know you should do and you don't do because you're like, I'll do it later.
Yeah.
And then it cascades into a bunch of different problems, and you're just like, why didn't I just do it when I had the opportunity?
Should have done it.
You know? And so I started this practice a while ago, and I feel like it's helped me a lot. It hasn't solved all of my problems, but surprisingly, it has solved a lot of my problems. You know, when you're like in your bedroom or you're in the office or you're in the classroom or something, and you have like a little gum wrapper or something, and you go to throw it away, and it, instead of going in the trash can, it goes behind the trash can. And you're like, I'll just pick it up when I take out the trash.
Correct.
So I made a deal with myself probably like close to a decade ago that when something like that happens, I'm not going to just say, I'll pick it up later. I pick it up. And it's like, it's this tiny little change that actually cascaded into a bunch of different things in my life where I was like, no, I'm not going to put that problem off till later. I'm going to take care of it right now. Now, I don't always do it. I don't always fix all my problems when I should, but I do always throw away that thing.
See, and I have to do that shit because
Well, because you're OCD, right?
yes,
Yeah.
and it's not just my OCD. It's I'm also now this is all self-diagnosed and based off of bullshit medical practices that we have here in the U.S. based off of just fucking drugging the fuck out of people, but
and giving them root canals, right?
root canals, absolutely. So I also, if we were going to diagnose me based off of bullshit medical practices just to drug people, I'm also slightly ADD or ADHD, whichever one. Like I can only seriously do one task for about 10, 15 minutes and then I'm fried. Like my brain is legit fucking fried.
Have
Like,
you always been like that?
Always, dude. Always. I can't finish a book because of that. I can't.
Not a Legos guy?
Not a Legos guy. Not like I need to do something for about 10, 15 minutes. And then my brain's like, this is fucking dumb. Let's go do something else. This is why it was so difficult when I was editing the movie. Like I locked myself in a room, like forced myself to do it. Because even with the I'm doing the shirt press I bought just for us, shirts for Guns for Everyone, not to make a business out of it in that sense, not custom stuff, but like I'll have to lock myself in and start learning how to do the process and shit like that. And it's going to take me a couple days because I know every 10, 15 minutes I need to stop and go do something
That's
else.
amazing you know how to do as much stuff as you do, knowing that that's true about you.
Oh, it's and I have to do that because I know if I don't start right now, it'll fucking never get done.
Because I'm like, I have maybe some tendencies for ADHD, but I cannot learn something unless I spend a long time concentrated doing it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. I'm not going to learn it.
No, I'm quite the opposite. I'm like, I got to spend 10, 15 minutes here. So I'll do work and then 10, 15 minutes later, I'll watch fucking 20 YouTube videos. And then an hour has gone by and now my brain's like, okay, now I'm bored of this. Now let's go back to work. And now let's, so I have to do shit in segments. And I wish I could say like, oh, I could chug along. I can just press on. But like my brain is legitimately fucked. Like it's just like it's done. I can like my brain can no longer do anything with that task. And it's already thinking about something else. It's already like, oh, you need to go beat the meat. You need to go fucking work on another project. So I have about 2 or 3 projects all at the same time, and I have to fucking bounce back and forth and then throw in some YouTube videos and find shit like
Whatever you say.
so,
Which automatically makes you not a boomer, I think. I think that's your get out of boomer free pass right there. Because boomers are like, no, discipline. You've got to learn how to sit through 18 hours of the most boring thing you've ever done.
So I can't do it. So for me, it's I've always had to just like, I got to do it right now or else it'll never fucking get done.
Yeah, I've had to teach myself how to do it right now. I've had to teach myself how to get the discipline to take care of problems immediately. Because otherwise my default is just to put them off. And actually, to some degree, I think that helps in life because there's a lot of problems that you encounter in life that turn out to not be problems if you just give it enough time.
Yeah.
You know, and you kind of learn, hopefully, how to prioritize what's a real problem and what may work itself out.
Yeah.
But at the same time, some of those problems just never go away.
For real. No, yeah. Tisha and I, we were talking about. She had mentioned how she kind of preferred doing the 6-hour long classes. She's one of those weirdos where it's just like, oh, you must learn everything.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of that shit that I miss as well because you do provide a lot of value. But because of that, like in 3 hours, I'm already getting anxious. Like, fuck, man, I want this shit to end. Like, I want this shit to stop. I need to go do something else. I need to sit down. I need to eat. I need to watch a YouTube video. I need to fucking watch Young Sheldon. I need to fucking watch this or that. Like in 6 hours, by hour 4, I was like frustrated. Like I was already like so anxious of just ending this shit already.
Can't imagine what kind of. Well, I mean, I witnessed it, but it's been so long. But seeing you in that class and being frustrated and anxious, like that's not a class I'd want to be in. Certainly not as your partner.
Shut up, fucker. Well, it was always easy.
I have a question. No, you don't.
Shut the fuck up. Well, now it's to the point where even after 3 hours, and I've already answered the question a couple of times, like, am I speaking Spanish to you? Like, what the fuck? Like, I bet you guys shut the fuck up. I already answered that.
Yeah.
Shit. But that's
I get self-conscious and I rush through some things sometimes for being self-conscious. The class that I did on Saturday was only 3 people, and I took the opportunity to force myself to slow down.
Yeah.
And to get a little bit more detailed. Correct. And spend the time doing all the things that I normally rush through. And I really liked it. But part of me thinks that I can only tolerate it because there was only 3 people there. If I had been doing that with 10 people, I probably would have felt way more self-conscious about it.
Correct.
And
well, that's why for me, I perform a little bit better when it's the both of us.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I don't have to do it all.
You can go disappear for a little bit, just rock back and forth in the corner.
It's like,
okay, I'm better.
When will this end?
Like, you want to cover anything else? No. Okay, I'll do it.
Fuck all these motherfuckers.
Yeah. So, and
meanwhile, you're saying that, like he said that wrong.
Yeah. No. You're wrong. You don't listen to him. He doesn't know what he's talking about. This is the right way to do it.
I'll continue because I don't want to do it right now.
Yeah. So, I don't have a funny way to wrap this up as far as like news stories go, but I will tell you something funny that one of the students told me during or at the end of the class this weekend. We were talking about animals, dogs, cats, whatever.
Yeah.
And this guy lives out in Parker, and he said that he had just bought this 35 acres out in Parker and started noticing all these decapitated jackrabbits on his property.
Oh shit.
He's trying to figure out what the heck was decapitating a jackrabbit. And you know what jackrabbits look like. Yeah. And rabbits in general are not to be messed with.
They're pretty vicious animals.
They're pretty vicious animals. They're pretty dangerous animals. So do you want to guess what was decapitating these jackrabbits?
I am going to guess that it was either a bird of prey or a fucking... we don't have wolverines. We have the other ones. The
chupacabras.
Chupacabra. They're not ferrets. I think we do have ferrets here in Colorado. But what if
like a marmot, or not a marmot? What do they call those things?
We have them a lot down in southern Colorado. What the fuck? Well, whatever. It's kind of like a wolverine, but it's here in Colorado. I forget what the fuck it is.
In this case, it was a stray cat.
What?
Yeah.
I would hate to
and he said that because he sees the cat carrying a dead carcass of a jackrabbit with no head through his property. And he actually started feeding this cat, and it hangs around, and to this day still decapitates jackrabbits.
Oh.
That is a savage cat. I mean,
crazy, dude.
A cat you'd think would be completely outmatched by a jackrabbit. Even a regular rabbit.
Holy shit, dude. That's insane.
Yeah. So he said this cat's been hanging around his house for like the last decade because he's been feeding it. And every once in a while, it's carrying around a dead jackrabbit. David says cats will feed on carcasses like that. So maybe it's not. But cats, I'm going to Google this. Decapitate jackrabbit. Okay. Google says decapitated rabbits. Oh, that's sweet. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. It's a Q&A.
Yo.
Cats often take just the heads, particularly cats that are well fed at home and then left to roam the neighborhood. They respond more to the instinct of killing anything that they can get their claws into rather than any real hunger. Huh. However, each kill presents an opportunity to feast on something the predators relish. The brain of the prey. Oh, this gets better. Hold on a second. But a neighbor's... Oh my gosh, I would not even notice the rabbit, which was already dead, but a neighbor's free-roaming cat was ripping at the base of its skull to get at the brain. Wow.
So badgers is what I was thinking, but...
Badger, yeah. I didn't know we had badgers in Colorado.
Yeah, very few, but we do.
And this guy also told me that I think I told the story recently about my daughter coming basically face to face with a bull moose in Grand Lake. This guy came face to face with a bear in Grand Lake.
Jesus.
They were sitting around a little campfire. They saw some movement, and they weren't sure what it was until it got closer to the fire, and it turned out to be a bear. And they all went scrambling back to the house, and he tore a hole in his knee on a rock wall. And this is how the story came up, because during the class, he banged his knee on something, and it started bleeding all over the place.
You should put a tampon in it.
Well, actually, I did the medical briefing at the class, and I'm like, here's the kit, here's what we're gonna do, blah 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 blah. And then one of the guys gets a cut on his hand, and I realize I don't have a first aid kit.
Like, this is only for trauma stuff, dude.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to pack this cut.
Yeah, fucking start thumbing that bitch.
Yeah. So, but to David's point, we did have a peacock down on the ranch who did have his head ripped off, and the best that we can imagine happened to this was that it was a bird of prey that ripped the head off the peacock. So, it's competition down there for biggest asshole in the wild. Cats and hawks. But it's crazy, man. Cats are, like David says, they're funny, furry little murderers. Yeah. So I would not want to mess with them. I'm glad that they're not bigger. I do think it would be cool to have one of the, what are those called? Serval? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Serval. It's like a big cat.
Cervix cat.
Cervix cat. So.
Called a, serval cat.
All right, so now we're going to ask for some help from the listeners. I still haven't fixed the PayPal link and the donate link, so I'm not even going to talk about that right now.
We need to do that shit at the beginning.
Yes.
When we have more people. Right now, nobody's listening.
Yes, but I will say for the people who are still listening, please let other people know that Larimer County is oppressing the rights of the little guy. And we are currently under litigation. So we have filed the paperwork. We are suing Larimer County.
Correct. And everything is on track. I don't know what to expect next, especially with the COVID situation. But I would imagine that we will soon have a court day. But I mean, fuck, there's people who are in litigation for years, dude. I don't anticipate being in litigation for years, but I wouldn't be surprised if we're in it for about 6 months, dude.
Ultimately, what is it like? I've never sued anybody before. I don't know how that works when it comes to like what you want. How do you define what you want?
So at this point, we didn't file for damages. Brian said we can amend and file for damages. Whatever that may be, it doesn't necessarily have to be a financial thing. At this point, we just want Smith to do the fucking right thing
and publicly apologize.
And
admit that he's a liar.
That he's a piece of shit liar. So, and then later on, we can get is damages if we really wanted to get all that shit sorted out. But basically, at this point, they have to respond to it, and I don't think they've responded. They have a certain amount of time to respond to that themselves, and I don't know how the fuck they plan on responding. And then after that, I'm assuming we're gonna have our court date. So, yeah,
this guy's on shaky ground. I don't put anything outside the realm of possibility for how this could play out. We could end up losing this, and it could hurt really badly. But this guy's on really shaky ground. I'm really hoping that he professionally.
It is if for some stupid fucking retarded reason, I don't know why you fucking let your whore mouth say that we were even going to lose. But if
because I'm a pragmatist.
If for some reason that shit happened, do you know the amount of stupidity and corruption that would have to be going on in the entire county of Larimer County?
Yes.
for that shit to happen. I mean, that just gives us the opportunity to take it to a higher court and make it more of a deal. And at that point, we really fucking stick it to him. But like, there is nothing. He has nothing to stand on.
Yeah, but name one thing in 2020 that's gone according to according to logic and reason. 2020. I heard this. Somebody else say this is not mine, but somebody said 2020 is a 4-letter word at this point.
For reals.
Yeah. So, David, you're right. Injunctive relief is what we're after first off. I just never sued anybody before. I don't know how any of this works.
I'm from the streets, so it's just like I just want to kick some ass.
Yeah.
I just want to hurry up and fight. Like this whole like, oh, we got to wait another week. Oh, we got to wait another 2 weeks. Well, we got to talk to their attorney and I'm still convinced that the attorney doesn't know what the fuck was going on. Like the attorney was just replying to emails like I don't know, but never really did any actual research.
Why would he?
Like none whatsoever.
Like what responsibility does he feel? Probably zero.
Dude, when I talked to Summit County, that is the very first thing she said. She didn't even say the sheriff.
Mm-hmm.
She like never mentioned this is the clerk. She's like, I'm taking this straight to the county sheriff so we can figure out whether or not you guys are correct. And then she sends me an email. Oh fuck it. You know what? I'm gonna pull it up. Straight from Summit County. Summit. Erin.
This is the only county that reached out to us prior to just not honoring our certificates.
Good morning, Edgar. We really appreciate you sharing the details of your class. The county attorney and sheriff agree that this course meets statutory requirements. Thank you and stay safe.
So they prove they can read, unlike Larimer County.
Unlike Larimer County. And then my asshole ass reply was, as annoying as all of this was, I appreciate you actually contacting us directly. Fucking annoying ass process.
That's right. Yeah. That's how I felt after talking to the undersheriff in Pueblo. Like I was getting pissed off while I was talking to him, but at the end I'm like, thanks for taking my call.
Correct.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at.
All it takes is just a little bit of human decency, man. Just a little bit.
I'm like seriously wondering if I like somehow like winked at his wife or his girlfriend, or like I've never met the guy. Like I for him to say the shit that he said, especially when that news article came out, although I don't know if I should believe it, as shitty as if it was written. Like there's a lot of shit he said. Like I wonder who the fuck touched him. Like I wonder who the fuck. Like I am genuinely interested and intrigued in knowing if like he has a girlfriend that I kissed one time, or somebody he wanted to go out with that I fucking put babies in, or
He's an asshole.
I can't believe I found that clip that fast, man. I wish the sound was a little bit higher, but I couldn't get it.
Shit.
Do you know what that's from?
No.
Back to the Future 3.
I can't remember that.
So every time Marty McFly gets called a chicken, he goes against what he knows he should do, and he ends up doing something stupid. And so this is like the last time in the whole trilogy that he gets called a chicken, and instead of breaking down and fighting like he always does, that he just finally answers.
He's an asshole. So I don't know, dude. Like it's very interesting, and it's mind-boggling the lengths and the amount of lies that he spewed out. And we've seen it again multiple times on record, and multiple times. I don't know. It's just incredible for him to be like, yeah, I accept 100% online courses from a class that doesn't meet statutory requirements, but I won't accept yours that does.
And he keeps bringing up this blank certificate,
which is not against the law. Like it's not. Feelings aside, it's not against the law. We are under no responsibility. You could call it right or wrong, but we are under no legal responsibility to put the name in for you at all.
And it was supposedly his employee who took the class and walked out of there with a blank certificate,
Didn't follow directions because
didn't follow directions, and brought a blank certificate back. What is the sheriff supposed to do with a blank certificate? Reject it.
Reject it. Fucking fill it out, bitch.
Sorry, this
By the
is
way-
not valid. You need to go get this valid.
Which, by the way, we had that in Denver, and Denver's all like, no, just fill it out, bitches. Because ultimately, we did give instructions to be like, hey, fill it out, you fucking idiots. We did that after Denver let us know that
Mhm.
people were showing up without putting in their names. Like, what kind of retard walks out and that doesn't put their name? Like, and it's probably people who've never received a certificate in their entire fucking life, which I can 100% guarantee this cop has never received it. Like, what is this? Like, what goes there on the blank line?
I've never qualified for anything in my life. I don't know what to do with this thing. I'm just a cop.
I'm just the cop.
All right. So anyway, thank you guys, everybody, for listening. And I don't know at this point what to say. I kind of lost the plot.
Okay, okay.